like, yeah, cool, we got this set up.
Oh, sorry, it's like the creepiest sound. Recording in progress.
Yeah, right. Like easy there, FBI.
So looks like we are live. I'm gonna mute the Facebook group.
Stream. Okay.
There we go.
Oh, look, delayed. Perfect.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's not gonna be confusing at all.
That's amazing. Hello, Pepperverse. Hello. We'll just wait for a few people to join. We're just going to awkwardly hang out here for a couple of seconds. I'm hanging out with Curtis and Renee. Surgeona, okay. Do you guys know who Surgeona is from Tinted Photography?
Nope.
Oh, you would love her work. So they're
I'm gonna freak right now.
Yeah, destination wedding photographers. They're so crazy
nice.
In New Zealand, but super adventurers, massive adventurers. They're really cool. So Surgeona, love that you're here. So I'm just here for a few moments and I'm gonna step out and Curtis and Renee are gonna take over. They come from very different backgrounds in the different genres in the industry. They've both been in the industry a very long time. They have so much to share and they're excited to talk about how to like diversify your education, why that's important, talk about collaboration, even though they shoot like two very different things, that their processes and approach are actually quite similar. So I'm really excited to hear about that. And as you guys have questions, you can come on live and ask your own questions because we want to see your face and we love that shit. Or you can come and engage in the conversation. So you have something you want to talk about or be a part of the conversation, come on live too. Hey, Daryl. Brittany. Surgeona says there's nothing awkward about these beautiful faces.
Oh man, you have no idea how awkward this can get.
It's so good. We welcome all the awkwardness. So I'm going to leave you guys and I'll let you take over. So I will make it.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what is that? Is this a divorce? Is there like paperwork involved in this?
No, it's super cash. This is just a break. I'm just taking a break and I'll be back.
I'm sure there will be like a panicked, like, oh my God, if we ever have to, invite somebody in here and share the screen.
I am searching like a crazy person for a clock. I see no time anywhere. Have we started?
I think we've started. It is.
There's literally 5 screens in front of my face and none of them have the time.
It's a spaceship. It says 8:32.
Okay.
Which everyone else is like 8:32. It's supposed to be 4. We're in Narnia because Newfoundland has a half an hour time zone.
It does. I believe it's the only place that has a half an hour time zone of its own.
Yeah, I see Tori and Brittany and Kelsey. Hi guys.
There's
gonna be people here. Yeah. So yeah, forgive any like bumbly stuff. We have not done this before, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, we've never talked before. So
civilly.
Together. Live about photography. So Can we start? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we already said we were gonna make this awkward, so I figure we're doing a pretty good job.
That's pretty good. Awkward's good. Show us the beer you've been. Okay, so I'll start with that. This is Iceberg beer. It's a beautiful blue bottle. A lot of people like to keep the bottles after they drink the beer. It's not the reason I drink the beer, but it is made with iceberg water. So there you go. Takeaway number 1. This is Renee Robyn. I am Curtis Jones. I don't know if anybody knows who we are and what we do. So we were gonna go and give you guys a little like backstory action. I think Renee will start first because her story is more interesting. And then I'll tell my story after. And based on how interesting hers was, I'll probably like punch mine up or not. We'll see what the energy is.
Yeah. Okay. So, rude, by the way, but we'll see how we can make this match. Yeah. So my name is Renee Robyn. I'm a photographer and digital artist from Alberta, and I've been in the industry for a long time. I actually started 23 years ago in this industry as a model, and around the 11-year mark, I got bored with modeling, like super bored with modeling, and I switched into photography. And I was like taking pictures of friends and stuff like that, and like mostly macro stuff because like I had this little digital point and shoot and it had like a flower setting and I was like, ooh, macro. And that was like the coolest shit ever because it had nothing to do with people, which is what I was sick of with modeling. And yeah, so from there I started that kind of stuff with a point and shoot. I had a Nikon Coolpix and a Canon PowerShot, I think. And then from there, I also ride motorcycles, and I managed to get myself hit and run over in a motorcycle crash, which is not how you get into photography full time. By the way, yes, we are sitting side by side. It is not two screens. We're in the same house.
Is it?
Or is it? Ooh. But yeah, so then I got hit and run over in a motorcycle crash, and I had to learn how to walk again and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, my rent is due. And what am I going to do? And all my skills required my legs because I went to school for like trades and everything. And so I taught myself digital art, and I learned to bring the world to me. And now 12 years later, we're still here. I travel around the world, and I used to travel around the world. Nobody does right now.
We're getting there.
Day at a time.
Yeah,
Anyways,
it's coming back.
That's like the shortest version possible because I never done it tons of times tonight.
No, it's a good version.
You like the short version.
I say short guy. I like short things. Don't read into this, by the way.
Yeah, I'm taller than he is, so that does not hold water. Anyways.
True. So yeah, okay. So I have a very similar story in the sense that none of it is the same at all. I graduated from university a long time ago. I have a degree in pharmacy, and I moved to Northern Canada to work up there as a pharmacist for the Northwest Company on Baffin Island, which I did, and I did it for 7-ish years before I decided that I was kind of done with that, and I didn't want to do that work anymore for a number of reasons, and that's a whole different thing. You can ask Renee about that later, but I figured I wanted to try something new. I had an opportunity to spend 3 months with 2 friends doing this trip in Greenland, which was more of an expedition style, like an adventure trip. And they needed someone to come along and take photos. And I really was just sort of not even an amateur photographer. I was taking pictures, but more or less just documenting the things that I was doing outside with friends that I thought was fun and interesting. I wasn't really putting any effort into like learning photography. I didn't know what RAW was, for example, but I was hired by these guys to go and do this trip. And that was my first experience of spending like intentional time with a camera trying to document something. And I really loved it. So when I got back from that,
Hold on, he's glazing over a whole part where he crossed fucking Greenland from the south to north pole, south to north tip for 3.5 months, unassisted, totally bonkers, and you'd never kite skied before. And
yeah, I'm trying to stay on the short side of things. Remember I said I was going to like tailor my backstory based on hers, and hers is really fast. I thought like sometimes you get a really long one. So I was holding back on information. I mean, I've obviously gone into overtime here now. I just explain myself. It's completely unnecessary. Anyways, I quit pharmacy and I started going out and shooting more and doing more adventures and trying to figure out a way to make a living doing that. And that's what I've been doing ever since. So the way we approached photography, like where we started, came from 2 very different places. I wanted to be out seeing the world and traveling just like she did, but she was sort of confined and had to bring the world to herself, whereas I felt like I had been at home doing, living in my head, basically not traveling, not doing much. So I needed to get out there and really grab a bunch of that stuff in the real world. So I guess that's a decent enough start.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cole's notes.
Cole's notes.
Summary.
I like this hand wave emoji. That's a good.
Kaylee.
Those are good comments. Good questions, comments. Anything that comes in the form of an emoji is good because I can understand it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I do have
I understand Brittany's 3 times better.
Such an ass. I do have the chat open on the side, so if there's any questions or comments pop in there, we'll see them as they come up. Do you want to quickly hop on to some of these questions here quickly before we start doing anything else? No, these ones. The other screens.
Renee made notes of what we could talk about. So, I mean, it doesn't matter how long I leave it up there for you guys because you're not gonna be able to read it. But we have an outline. There's a rough outline. I'm gonna check the time here. 10 minutes.
Yeah.
In 10 minutes in, we've
My
crossed
turn.
the threshold. Okay,
Oh.
let's.
Hi, Joe Johnson. Wow, I fucked that. Sorry. Hi, Joe.
Joe Johnson, nice.
No, I said JoJo first.
Uh-huh.
Fuck. I wonder, Joe, does that happen a lot? Do people say JoJo a lot, or was that just like a really bad screw up on my part? I'm super curious now. Oh, Stacy, look at you. I even had that window open, but thanks, Stacy. Oh, good. That's Joe's nickname. Fabulous. I feel
We're just like
like
cooking with
less of an asshole
gas
now.
here now.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you this. How do you continuously get inspiration to create? That's from Boone.
Let me turn this around on you and say, how do you, no, I'm not even gonna try, I'm not that smart. How do I continuously get inspiration to create?
Yeah.
Honestly, because there's only really one way to answer this. I don't actually struggle with getting inspiration to make things. I have a problem actually getting past that stage a lot of the times. That's where my barrier is. I feel like I just have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks filled with inspiration and ideas and things that I want to do. And there's just so much of it that, if anything, the real problem is not really ever going back and taking a look at that stuff and then in being super intentional and like picking the things that I really want to focus on, because there's only so much time and so much creative energy to go around. And that's sort of one of the downsides with making a career in the creative arts, I guess, is that if you're creative for a living, a lot of your creative energy goes into paying the bills and keeping the lights on. And so, I can fill out books and books and books with inspiration of creative ideas and just never really figure out a way to get them going. So the hard part for me is not being inspired. It's like carving out the time to actually work on personal projects that I'm motivated to get out there and show the world, I guess.
Joe calls it procrastinating.
Procrastinating.
It's a good word. I'm gonna add that to my vernacular.
That's yeah, that's exactly what it is. I'm such a good procrastinator worker.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. Okay. How about you? How do you continuously get inspiration?
Last minute panic treats me pretty well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Typically what happens is I like show up on set and like people are like, oh, where do your ideas come from? I'm like, I dream them mostly, but if I don't dream and I still have to produce something, last minute panic treats me pretty well. I think I read too much Calvin and Hobbes when I was a kid. And I just
No
show
such
up.
thing. You can't.
I show up on set and it's like, what did the designer bring? What does the client look like? What kind of backgrounds do I have available? Holy fucking shit. And then just like run with it and like try to figure out a way to light it and pose it and whatever.
It's true. When we work together on projects, I'm the guy that's like 10 days out sitting in a coffee shop, forcing her to like storyboard ideas. And she just like,
and I want to kill myself that whole time.
Ignores me for 10 days. And then we show up on set and then, out of that chaos.
Yeah. Last minute panic.
Things happen.
Pretty much it. Lots of art books that helps, but yeah, panic is basically my number one.
Yeah. I mean, if you want real answers, I would say art books for sure, movies. I get a lot of inspiration from stand-up comedy, which has nothing really to do with the work that I do, but I don't know, it just like kind of like puts my mind in the right space to think creatively. I find a lot of people listen to music. I like listening to stand-up.
What is the most challenging struggle you've been in your career, and how do you get through it?
Well,
I love that you're answering these first.
What? This is kind of a challenge right now, to be honest.
Table topics, go.
Most challenging point? What? What is
the most challenging struggle you've been in your career? And
I've obviously not been challenged enough.
Or maybe you're challenged already too much.
Yeah, maybe. I think because I've thought about this question mostly this last year a lot, and for me the answer is the constant, there have been like, you know, high points and low points over the years, but the constant struggle or the constant challenge is figuring out what the next jobs are. So you can line up 3 or 4 months of work, but then there's always going to be another, you know, set of months that you have to line up. And I know that's true for a lot of people who do like gig work and contract and freelance, but I've sort of put all my eggs in the travel basket when it comes to photography. So if I'm doing commercial work, if I'm doing personal work, if I'm doing education stuff, workshops or guiding, whatever it is, all those different avenues and genres of photography, but they all sort of play around the world of travel and the outdoor world. So anytime something goes amok with travel, like last year, that's a huge challenge for me. So I think the thing I struggle with the most is just having a lot of plan B's, C's, D's, E's, and F's. Because, for example, I'll book 2 or 3 months photo guiding in Antarctica, but if that trip doesn't happen, and I don't get the call that it's not going to happen until a month out, and I book it a year in advance, it's really hard to fill up that 3 or 4 months with only 30 days notice. And then I have this gaping, you know, hole in my schedule where I could work, but what, like, you know what I mean? Like so that's sort of the challenge for me. How about you? Do you have one specific, or is it just like?
I mean, this rolls back into the last minute panic thing, I'm sure. I mean, I was thinking about it like this whole time, and I've been thinking about it since Boone asked us in the group. There's just so many.
Everything's a challenge. Life is difficult. Renee Robyn, 2021.
Yeah, life is just really frustratingly hard. Fuck. I mean, some days it's just waking up, getting out of bed on time. The standard like self-employment stuff, which is like, you know, oh yeah, we work for ourselves, which means we get to make our own schedules, which means we get to pick which 100 hours of the week we want to work. But also I'm just really tired all the time. So that's a big one. And how do I get through it? I just keep getting up the next morning, whether I want to or not. Which is kind of depressing, but it is honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where and anybody who's been doing this long enough, I think you figure out that it never really feels secure, but you can sort of just trust that it works if you keep doing it.
Yeah.
You never feel like 100% confident that you're making the right choices, but if you keep doing it, you seem to be able to keep doing it. So
yeah,
that's the proof.
Next question, what specific genre, subject matter that you have yet to photograph would you like to or attempt to consider doing in the future?
You go first.
So
what I would like to shoot, no, I'm joking.
Specific genre or subject matter. I mean, admittedly, I've kind of done most of it. That I would really like any of my like big hit marks that I really want, I've already been doing. I mean, that's why when you go to my website, it's just like hodgepodge of different themes, and like my website doesn't even cover everything that I shoot. It just covers the stuff that I'm like willing to put on like my name to, where I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is cool, I like this work. Not to say the other stuff isn't, but it's like it's so far off brand that it's useless on my website. But that's why there's like, you know, crazy digital art and matte painting and then landscapes and then environmental portraits and then and like shibari and like boudoir and blah. It's like this whole thing. I like doing all of that stuff. I mean, I don't put any of my wildlife stuff on because A, I don't want to get paid to do it, and B, I'm just not very good at it, but I like it. I mean, I'm really good at taking terrible photos of birds. I did a lot of that in the lockdown stuff.
They're not terrible. I think that your wildlife photography is it's perfect the way it is right now because you actually relax.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing that you look forward to.
Yeah, there's no work associated with it. Like when I go out and I'm going to photograph pictures of birds, I'm not thinking about like the client on the Instagram and like all the fucking shit that goes along with it. I'm just like, hey, let's go see if we can get photos of birds. And I have a 5D Mark III, so getting a flying songbird is friggin' near impossible. But I like it. So I don't know. As far as like what I would really like to do, I mean, it's all stuff that physically I'm unable to.
No,
so.
that's okay. Blue sky it. Let's hear it.
I mean, I would love to be able to photograph Antarctica or Mongolia or like Kazakhstan, like really remote stuff, but I don't.
Mongolia.
I got run over. I'm not super mobile, and this meat suit is like just a heaping pile of broken problems and allergies.
I happen to know a person that photographs Mongolia and Antarctica quite a bit.
I know you do.
Probably help you out.
Yeah. Except that this thing's not going to survive that trip. But you know, it's like, yeah, there's lots of stuff that I would like to do that just physically is just probably not going to happen. So I don't really allow myself to think about it too much. What about you? What's your wish list?
I'm slowly working through a wish list. I mean, I am shooting kind of what I want to shoot more and more these last 4 years. I feel like my work is moving in a different area towards something that's a little less literal, a little more I guess not abstract, but narrative or concept based. So I think I like the idea of that, like bigger concepts, bigger stories, that I have some control over the narrative, I guess, less of the just straight up documenting. But the more time I spend it on the water with like whales, like I really think that the next big thing I want to try is like underwater photography.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
I got a house thing you can borrow.
Scuba dubing and hanging out the deep dark water. That would be fun, especially considering some of the places I go, like Mongolia.
Yeah, because there's tons of water there. Lots of whales in Mongolia.
No, but in the Arctic and the Antarctic and Newfoundland and Greenland and stuff, there's just like so many opportunities to shoot and see what's under the water. I think that would be a cool next adventure for me.
Stacy says underwater would be so crazy, amazing, and terrifying. Yeah,
and that's another reason why I'd like to do it. Most of the reason why I start something is because it scares me on some level. So water does terrify me, and I'd like to get past that.
Joe says go shoot with Yuan Oliphant. Yuan at One Ocean Diving.
Okay.
We can make a note of that.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, so do you want to talk about just like pop questions in?
Yeah, we had like an arc, but we don't have to stick to it. I mean, the basic idea, I guess what we were going to try to accomplish here with this little live was to just talk about the different backgrounds that we have and the perspectives that we brought to photography, how that's changed over the years, mostly through diversifying like what inspires us and what we learn from, and how since working together, there happens to be a lot of similarities and crossover that you wouldn't initially think exists. And I think we both are sort of leaning into some of that crossover now. And it's sort of affecting the work that we create.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Is that a thing? I guess I just said it.
Ask the humans.
I just said a thing.
Yeah, do you want to share screen?
You do yours first.
But yours is pulled up.
Okay.
We'll alternate. Would it make you feel better?
We'll go 1 for 1?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do
So
that.
we're gonna check the time. It's 8:54.
Oh yeah, we're right here at the list at the very top. Cool.
Yeah, we got a lot to go through here. So we're gonna go really, really quick, but we both have like 3 photos that we're gonna share with you guys. So 6 photos in total. That's some quick math right there. This guy thinks on his feet when he's sitting down. And we're gonna talk about those photos and talk about our approaches and how we go about taking them. And you can see how like those approaches are quite different. And then I think the 3rd photo is an example of how we're both sort of that crossover effect that I've been talking about, that influence.
Alrighty, so Newfoundland and Labrador share.
Which one are we doing? Okay. So, Stacy, did everybody see this? Or anybody? Anybody in the chat?
Yeah.
Is it working?
Let us know if the screen share is working. Yeah. Oh, there it is. It switched. Stacy says looks great. It
Okay.
looks Okay, good.
All right. Okay, so this is a photograph. And so one of the big differences between Renee and I, before we met and early in our careers, I guess, is that I come from an outdoor sort of adventure guiding background. So a lot of the work that I do is it's about scouting, planning, prep, getting to a location and waiting, for hours or days, or visiting the same place multiple seasons, year after year, until you get the conditions that kind of make sense and everything lines up. And sometimes it's not as invested as that. Sometimes it just happens and it's perfect. Sometimes it's just like a random chance, like, you go for a hike and you think you might get good light and you do. But a lot of times you do put a lot of effort into the planning and the scouting and the pre-planning, and then just sitting and being patient. And this is an example of one of those where I had for a while thought about this bird sanctuary. Sorry, the cat wants to eat. Okay, that's the intermission. So yeah, I went out to this bird sanctuary here in Newfoundland, and it's a massive colony of northern gannets, and they all, not all, but a lot of them sleep, like hundreds and hundreds. You can see them on this rock here, these little white things. They sleep on this rock. And I had lots of photos of this in the daytime, at sunrise, at sunset, midday, telephoto shots of the birds and stuff. But I really, really wanted to try and create something that was different, something I'd never seen before. And I was dabbling in the astrophotography world, and I thought, well, where's the Milky Way in relation to the bird sanctuary? And after some, iPhone apps and stuff like that, and looking at Google searches, I figured out that it might possibly line up. So I went down there. I spent hours that night waiting for things to clear. Didn't really happen on the first night. Went back a second night, seemed to have like a better chance, and it did open up at around 1 o'clock in the morning. So I went down there to shoot the birds with the Milky Way in the perfect spot at around 2 o'clock in the morning. And the idea was to light paint as well, but the flashlight that I brought with me wasn't powerful enough. So here's the sort of random luck part. There was a lighthouse way down the coast, but it was passing by, rotating, and every 30 seconds or so, which is about my exposure time, a 25 to 30-second exposure, I was getting about 4 washes of light.
Her ass just went in my teacup. Gross. We're just gonna move that.
This is off the rails. Sorry, Stacy. Getting 4 or 5 washes of light, and it was bathing that rock with the birds. Get out of here, cat. Perfectly. Anyways, point being, here's a story of birds in the Milky Way that came from planning and scouting and being patient and multiple visits. And that's my first photo about how I approach photography from the outdoor landscape adventure world. Now Renee's going to show a photo. I'm going to see if we can get the cat out of the line of fire here.
I'm super disappointed that she stuck her butt cheeks like right in my teacup.
Yeah.
Okay, so did it switch screens? We're gonna wait to see if if this works, because sometimes we have to stop it. Okay, good, we're good. Okay, awesome. Right on. So on the complete flip side, this is a friend of mine that I had met in the Netherlands. His name is Richard Terborg. He's this really awesome photographer there, and I was like, he and I became like super fast friends, and we like, I would go over to the Netherlands, a couple months a year, every year, and like take over his ceiling, basically like his attic area. I would like stay up there with them. And I was like, oh man, it'd be so cool if you to come back to like, Canada one time, like show you Canada, because I spent so much time in the Netherlands taking over his place, and I was feeling kind of bad. So anyways, I photographed this background plate when I was traveling through the UK with another friend, and I was like, sweet, this is awesome. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It just sat on my hard drive for literal years. And then Richard came over, fortunately, because the PPOC brought him over. They brought him over for a lecture, and I was like, sweet, this guy's in my hometown, this is awesome. And so we went to the studio, and this is the last minute panic thing. Oh, kitten. This is the last minute panic thing where tail. So I was just like, I just had friends who were designers, and they were like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know, just bring some stuff. And then you know, stuff will just happen, I think, and it'll probably be fine. And so anyways, we shot this and I had no idea what I was going to do with it, that you're going to get cat butt cheeks on your beer. But anyways, so yeah, I like photographed these images. I had no idea what background piece I was going to use. I had edited the first one with a completely different background. And then I was like, I want to try a couple digital painting techniques that I've been working on. And then I sent him a message and I was like, hey man, so how you in religion doing? Like, you okay if I put you in like maybe a bit of a burning church scenario, like historical, but like we're gonna bring up, you know, just want to make sure you're not like a super hardcore book Catholic. So he wasn't, so it was good. And that was how this image came together. It was just like these hodgepodge of ingredients over like literal years, and then it just came together really late one night around like 3 a.m, which is pretty common for me. And this is where it came out like 6 or 7 hours later. So yeah, obviously super, it's basically the same techniques.
Yeah, so at this point, Renee and I are very much the same at this point in our journeys.
Okay. And guys, feel free to pop questions if you have any in here.
Okay, so let's see if I get through this one a little more
Oh, the cat.
articulate. Okay, so the cat right now is going at the computer screen because there are birds. You'll see there are 2 ravens up in the sky. Kitten is pawing at them.
She's just like, get away.
Anyways, so I chose this one because this is a shot that I've had a lot of success with. It's been seen in a lot of places and printed and shown and shared and all that kind of stuff. And there are a number of reasons why I think that is. But one of the questions that I often get is, you know, did I Photoshop the ravens into the shot? And the answer is always the same. It's no, I didn't. In fact, when I took this photo, I didn't even have Photoshop, I'm pretty sure. I certainly wouldn't know how to put ravens in. This photo is 100% because this is from when I was learning how to dog sled, and I was helping take care of dog teams in the north. And I was living with a family that had a couple teams, and so going down, feeding the dogs, being with the dogs, running them, checking in on them, you know, for days and days, weeks, months. You just get to know how they react, and you get to know the environment. You get to see how the light plays there, and also you get to see how the environment works around the dogs, that being things like ravens. And these ravens would show up for feeding like clockwork, and they would try to pick up the scraps, and they would, you know, they would work in teams like raptors almost and distract the dogs, and then other ravens would go in and take food. It was actually a lot of fun to watch. And so I knew this one evening that the wind was up a little bit. I was going to get that nice atmosphere. The light was perfectly lit. It was low coming in from the side. And I had the dogs kind of, Sarah, my friend, was feeding. So they're all like intent, you know, looking towards her for the food and howling and such. And then the birds are just like playing on the wind. So it was just a matter of sitting and waiting for the moment to happen and knowing that all those conditions were going to line up, because I had seen it in my head and I'd seen it 100 times before, knowing that if I got them all to work at the same time, I could get a shot. And then just sort of like playing around with the shutter a little bit to get that nice drag that makes it look a little bit dreamy and puts a little bit of dynamic energy into the birds and the wagging tail and stuff like that. So you capture that sense of wind and cold and chill. And so that's just another example of like my approach that often gets, you know, mistaken, I guess, for a Photoshop job. I've since put birds in photos, but not this one.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Or that first one either.
Let's go find another one here. I think it's down here somewhere. There it is. Yeah, so on the topic of landscapes, so I mean, one of the things that I do is a little bit of digital matte painting. And so in this case here, I was in Scotland and I was traveling all over Scotland with a bunch of friends. And I get tired of creating photos or taking photos where people can tell where it's from. Like, that always kind of annoys me. Like, I hate it when, you know, I love landscape photography, but I'm not really interested in representing reality like at all. So what I did in this case was I have a whole bunch of elements of different parts of the Highlands in Scotland, and I just like smashed them together into this environment that just doesn't exist anywhere. And that's the stuff that I really like, is reality is boring, and I also don't like waiting for it, you know. So he'll sit outside and like wait for the perfect light, and I'm like, fuck that, I'll just paint it. Like I'll just make the perfect light. And so that's kind of what I
Essentially,
do.
just a sidebar here. If we went out together hiking or camping, I might come back from a 2 or 3 day trip with 100 images, and she would come back with thousands.
Yeah, because I'm photographing for pieces of, they're basically like ingredients, right? Because when I'm creating, it's like I'm making like an image soup. And so I spend months and years collecting all these different ingredients from all over the world. And then eventually I like come back home and I bake them into this like this final image. So yeah, the story on this one's pretty quick. I mean, the pieces up here on the right, this is from the Old Man of Store, which was actually one of the worst hikes I've done as an adult. And admittedly, I'm not a very strong hiker because, like I said earlier, I got run over. But it was like sideways rain, and like the scramble up there was just like pure slick mud, and it was so wet and so cold. But the environment, it was so good, because I mean, I've seen a lot of photos of Old Man of Store, and it's always like, you know, that low sunset and like that really nice side light and everything. And I was like, this is on wheels. Like nobody's up here. There was no one there other than us. And I have these like really great ingredients that like on their own wouldn't stand as a photograph at all. They look like garbage, but if you like cut them up right and you color grade them right, they look really, really interesting. So yeah, that's kind of like the quick way on that one. Let's see here. Oh, your last one is over here. Okay, I'm gonna have to hit stop sharing for a second.
Anybody have any questions or
Yeah, any questions yet?
anything they would like to say, to shout at us? Any statements you've been holding on to for the last year that you just need to get off your chest? Scream into the interverse.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull this over here.
No judgment.
Okay, so that's gonna go there. Where is it? There it is. Okay, good. Awesome. Okay.
It really does look like our screens are split.
Yeah, right. The rocking chair really does an interesting like trick.
Yeah.
Renee is my new spirit animal. Retro. You could probably get a better one. My spirit animal skills are pretty discount bin. Yeah, we can also do like the face-to-face stuff also here. So just waiting, but if not, then we can also just go on to this next one here. So I will share the screen. Burp. So on the topic of mixing stuff.
Oh, you did take that one.
I did.
All right. Okay, so this is a third image from me, and this is like completely different than the last two that you saw. And this is an example of some of the work that I'm creating more recently that's been, it's a merger of two worlds, I would say. Before meeting Renee, I really didn't play much in the studio. I used lights sometimes, you know, for on location stuff or commercial work and things like that, but I didn't really, you know, work lights in studios with large modifiers and all that kind of stuff. I also wasn't really big on costuming or styling or coming up with concepts and then trying to shoot those concepts or creating characters necessarily. I really just shot what it was that I was assigned to do or what I was hired to do, because those people were often the point of the story, like their reality, and the more authentic it was, the better it was. So for me, that was a very foreign concept. But after meeting Renee and then working with her so much, shooting a lot of behind the scenes or working as a second shooter, I started picking up a lot of what she was doing, and it really started to grow on me. And I started to see that my own sort of even second camera stuff or BTS stuff was being influenced quite a bit by what she was doing, but it was also being influenced by, you know, the stylist she was working with, the hair designer, costume departments, the models themselves or actors or whoever was hired to be in front of the lens, and all that whole big team had like a really big influence on me. And I started paying attention more to, I guess, things that I've always sort of been inspired by, but never really thought could influence my photography. And that was movies and art books, works of fiction, even historical work. And that's what this photo is about. Before my first time going to Antarctica, I read a lot of books about the history of the place and the explorers that went down there kind of first. And so my head was filled with like stories of the Terra Nova expedition, Scott and Shackleton, and the photographers that went down there, like Ponting and Hurley and these guys. And I was just obsessing over their black and white photography and what it took to make those images and be down there.
Did we freeze? Oh no, did we freeze?
Stacey, are we still around or did it die?
Did we die?
Your screen sharing, stop share. I think we unfroze. Oh no, we're back.
Okay,
Mm,
good.
Now I don't know where to start. Well, that's awkward.
Oh man. Okay, well that's good. Everything froze on our end, so that's good that it didn't freeze on yours. All right.
Okay, so I don't know how much of that you guys got, but the idea is that I had a lot of influence from Renee and the people she worked with in that world. I had a huge inspiration from my first time to Antarctica with the history and the story of that place and the people that went down there and kind of explored it first. And I wanted to try to see if I could put that together in some way that showcased both of those worlds. So I have a lot of landscapes, a lot of actual in the field stuff. I've got the history itself that I've been studying like obsessively for years. And now I'm out and I'm trying to like cast my characters, build these, stories, write backstories for these people, finding out how to style them, figuring out how to light them in the studio, and then bringing them into Photoshop and manipulating them so it looks like those images were maybe taken at the time period, with like a slightly modern twist or my own sort of take on it. But it's definitely the merger or the blending of those worlds of adventure and outdoors. That's where a lot of the inspiration comes from. But then there's this heavy inspiration from Renee's world that's also been worked into this. And I feel like moving forward, a lot of my work, I have so many new ideas now that can blend these concepts, like these ideas. There's really no limit. That's one of the things I think we wanted to like really as a takeaway here is that there's no boundary or box on where you take inspiration from or what kind of photography you want to do. Just because you're doing wedding photography doesn't mean you can't be a kick-ass astrophotographer and mix those two worlds. And people are doing it. They're doing it really well. So, I mean, yeah.
Embrace the remix.
Yeah, mash it up.
Yeah.
But find projects you're stoked to get out, you're pumped, motivated to do, because it's super hard when it just seems like a chore. You should be excited about it. And Renee's example of crossing streams.
What a phrase. What a phrase.
That's a Ghostbusters phrase. It's fine.
Is it?
Yeah, it's older than you.
Is it?
Probably.
No. Ghostbusters isn't older than me, sorry.
Are we sure about that?
Yeah. But yeah, so this is my remix essentially. Oh, it doesn't change. Okay. But yeah, so this is my remix. I had Nita Strauss reach out to me. She's a guitar player for Alice Cooper, and she had a solo. Yeah, see, Joe got it. Crossing streams.
No, I know what that's. I'm telling you, it's from Ghostbusters.
All right.
I'm a very innocent boy.
Right. Anyways, so in either case, so Nita Strauss reached out to me and she had her solo album coming out and she needed album artwork. The problem was that I was in Newfoundland and Newfoundland doesn't have a studio like what I have in Edmonton. And I was just like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? And then I thought about it and there was a really tight deadline. Basically, she flew up to Newfoundland. We shot for a day and she flew back the next day. So it was like, we had to get everything immediately as possible. And so with there being no studios available really for what we needed, I was just like, well, I mean, if there's any place to shoot some fucking awesome rock photos anywhere, Newfoundland is like the most incredible place for it because I mean, it's just awesome. So in this case, normally I would have been like terrified with the idea of photographing someone on location, especially somebody who's at this woman's caliber. I mean, she's an incredible artist. She's very well known. And she's also just like super, super nice and very chill. Her and her partner are just amazing.
She's in the category of indispensable client.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of them are disposable.
No.
They're not. No, it's not true.
But anyway, so it's like, I have to be able to get this woman like amazing artwork really quickly and efficiently. And we only have a day. We have no chance of reshoots. We have no chance of like, possibly taking this back and being like, oh, that didn't really work out. Like everything has to work. So anyways, we did these like crazy hikes and brought her down to a few places around Newfoundland and shot for like a good 12-hour day just to make sure that we had everything. And then, I did the album art and everything and all of that was fine and dandy. But then there was this image where like, it was always kind of like, bugging me. I was just like, there's something here with this shot, right? So I've shot this woman on location, which is normally not my thing, but here we are. And I like how it looks, but it feels like it's missing something. So I took some of my ingredients, which were from Half Moon Bay. So I photographed the Titans and Mavericks in San Francisco and California at the Half Moon Bay. And these are 50-foot waves, which is insane. And as someone who grew up on the prairies, that is a terrifying concept. But I photographed these like incredible waves, and I knew that I probably wasn't going to get another chance to do this. And so having these ingredients in my repertoire was able to like, pull together this like really great shot for her. And I'm super, super stoked with how it came together. But if I hadn't spent, a couple of years shooting on shooting on location, shooting people on location, and like diversifying that study, because I've always up until that point been shooting people in the studio and then compositing them. I wasn't ever like remixing the two. But I mean, since the two of us started working together, I was second shooting his shoots. I was shooting behind the scenes on his shoots and they're all on location. So I was getting a lot more practice with diversifying my study by photographing all of these things that are normally out of my comfort zone. But because I was like second camera or behind the scenes, the pressure wasn't really there. That when it came time when I had to deliver, a kind of a higher profile client, I was able to like go out and do that with like relative confidence. So that was nice.
I feel like if there's like one, maybe you might think differently, but if there's one thing that you can do to be better or to improve, I guess, or push yourself in a direction, it's to be a second shooter for somebody who's doing something that not necessarily that like is in your genre that you want to do. Like that's a good idea too, but just somebody that's shooting and it inspires you on some level or in some way, go assist or second shoot with them, do it for free. I guarantee you're going to learn something and it's going to like open your mind to something else that will influence your work. It's definitely, since I've been doing it with her, like I take every opportunity to not even like if it's I want to learn, I've been learning video, so I'll go and help out people who know a bunch of stuff about video, but it applies to like my dream to start scuba diving so I can document and photograph what's under the water and stuff. I'm not actually going out and assisting any other underwater photographers, but what I am doing is I'm figuring out how to like get properly certified and licensed to drive, some of the boats. I'm going out with the people who do the whale tours and the bird watching tours and stuff around the island and figuring out what their, experience is and how they do all of that. And all of that adds up and kind of like, for me anyways, it builds this like really clear timeline that I'm super pumped about. I get super excited to then mix my photography into, or my, my spin.
Daryl says, do you ever challenge each other and try to shoot in the style of the other person? I don't think so.
So sometimes, okay. No, I don't think we like have challenges. We both always want to be this other person's second shooter because we always feel like the photos are better. And it's true, even subjectively.
It's true. Hold on, I have a photo from this.
Or objectively, I mean, it's always true. Like, yeah, this is a good example. So this photo.
Hold on. I'm gonna pull that up. Okay, so here's an example of where like I was second shooting his shot.
So this.
Anyways.
There's a whole story here, but basically it was a really big project that Renee was working on and I came in to help her with, and it was around these horses and she had like a bunch of ideas, but there was one idea that was mine, and it was like the rider going through the woods shooting backwards with an arrow. And so at the end of the weekend, it was like my time to shine. Renee had shot, for 3 days up to that point, she had hundreds of images thousands of images that were going to be great. But it was my turn to do my shot. I even drew it out on a piece of paper and everything. I knew everything I wanted it to be, knew where the light was going to be, had them come through. And I think the light wasn't working. So I was getting a little bit frustrated that it wasn't firing for whatever reason. And then I took a bunch of shots and we couldn't catch the sync. We couldn't get it to sync. And then eventually, because I guess I was getting frustrated, I just got up and I sort of like last minute went over, checked on a light, got it to fire. And instead of getting back to the spot that I was sitting in, I decided, not that I forgot where I was, I actually just decided to try a different angle. Don't ever do that. Like if you've got an angle picked out for anything you're shooting and you just need one more shot where all the gear works, get your shot, then find a new angle. Don't put all the work in and the frustration and the anger, fix everything that's wrong and then change your perspective before you get that shot. Because that's what I did. And the shot I got was garbage. And guess who sat in the free space that I had just basically carved out and honed to perfection was this lady. Yeah. And she nailed it. I mean, this was a great shot.
I got it in one shot. I took one shot from his spot and this was the shot. And he was so mad. And I get it. Yeah. But he was so mad he couldn't even talk for like 10 minutes after.
And the best part was her sister was there like assisting, and she's a troll of like the 10th degree. So it didn't. I needed some space. I went for a walk. I climbed a tree. I talked to some birds. I punched a chipmunk. He punched first, by the way, so don't even get any ideas anyways. But the point being that that second shooter thing has always been a thing between us where we enjoy the other person's shot a lot more. But your actual question, Daryl, was do we try to shoot the other person's style? I don't think we've ever specifically tried it. I know I've played around with the idea of doing something like that, like give each other a challenge, but we haven't really done it. The closest we've ever come is sort of just like photoshopping friends onto things, where we'll have
oh yeah, the Photoshop battles.
We'll have a Photoshop battles.
Yeah, but it's bad. Like it's all bad, and that's where we're like meeting in the middle of this.
I think I'm doing great work. I'm doing great work. Her stuff's bad.
It's all bad. It's so bad. It's all the worst. Even the themes are terrible. But I mean, so like all of that, when we started realizing how useful the diversification of study was, and I mean, I'd already been doing that for a number of years. Like I was assisting friends who were like professional car shooters and like other underwater photographers, not scuba diving, but like in the pool and stuff.
Nan's here.
Hey Nan, how's it going, Nan? So like, yeah, I had embraced the value of diversification of study quite early on, but then, we really kind of like, oh my God.
There's so many photos that are so close to that already.
Yeah, we can do that.
You can probably just reuse like 80% of the work is done.
Okay. So Daryl said, Renee, can you please digitally recreate an image of a rabid Curtis in a tree, Sparta kicking the squirrel? Yes. The answer is yes. I can 100% do that. I'll put it in the comments eventually because that would be really funny. But yeah, so anyways, I like learned the value of diversification of study like super early on, like, assisting car photographers where I was just like literally moving the car around, really made, just watching why they chose the angles that they did or the lens that they did or whatever. Even though I don't shoot cars, I have no interest in shooting cars. It's not my world. It made me a far better photographer and digital artist.
And it helped me out like 3 years ago when I got a job to shoot cars. There's nothing in my portfolio that says this guy knows how to shoot a car, like barely knows how to drive a car. And all of a sudden I get hired to take pictures for cars.
Yeah, Escalade.
So, yeah, like Escalades.
Yeah, he got hired by Escalade to do a shoot for them, which was like, what? But fortunately, because
she had all that experience,
we were able to not fuck that shoot up.
Guess who ran the production?
Yeah, super lucky that way. So that's the other reason why diversification of study is super helpful, because every now and then, weird things happen and you get hired for stuff that's like, what?
Yeah, don't be afraid to pull friends in if you don't know.
Yeah, that's one thing that I do. If I get hired to do a job but I'm not really sure if I can do it. I haven't shot a lot of weddings in my life, I think 3. But the last 2 that I did, I hired assistants that were better wedding photographers than I was. And I said I would just handle all the editing and everything. So that's what I did, and their images are amazing, and my images are okay, but I made sure. Anyways, I just made sure that like I had someone that for sure could do the job. But admittedly, that's kind of where like Newfound Shores came from, was like this desire to like share embracing the remix with people. So like Nan Noftel is in here, and she is admittedly a wildlife and landscape photographer and waves, and she's absolutely awesome at all of it.
Yeah, she's a Newfoundland gem.
Yeah, Newfoundland Nan, Newfoundland gem. So yeah, she was like, and so anyways, we got her to come to some of these workshops that we have, and they're environmental portrait and landscape workshops, because we're trying to like really pull in that remix for people and like basically bring people into the world that, you know, we have created for ourselves and for like our teams. And so now Miss Nan is doing some totally awesome environmental portraits, and I love it. And I'm super proud of her. So that's like
Kicking the enviro ass.
and that's the stuff that we really want to be able to see, is like, you know, we want to take people from like their comfort zone, which we all have one, and the longer you've been shooting, the bigger your comfort zone is. And we want to pull people out of their comfort zone and create spaces for people to fail, where it's like totally okay if they fail. And then work through that failure, and then understand why it didn't work, and then start creating stuff on their own at the workshop and outside of the workshop that is like falls into the category of either acceptable or awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that company, that workshop company here in Newfoundland, it works best when people are building stories and characters outside and experiencing the outside, and yeah, like pushing themselves physically, creatively. And the other really big thing that we try to like push or champion, I guess, is working with other players, right? Like the models, we really want them to be a big part of it. The costuming, the styling is a really big part of it. The editing, you know, like Renee is like, she's got so much experience doing Photoshop workshops and doing sort of like studio shoots, and then like the second day is like how I would edit and composite, right? She gets hired for that stuff all the time. But usually in a landscape or sort of a photo tour or a destination workshop, you don't really get a lot of editing time, because the idea is to be outside a lot and to be moving from place to place to place. So we specifically build in like a considerable amount of editing, because we do want people to get a lot of that experience, because there is something to be said for blending those worlds of what you can create outside on location and how you can add to it and build from it back, you know, in front of the laptop with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. Yeah, so we try to build that stuff in and not really make it so much about one or the other. It's kind of about creating a story, you know, from start to finish all the way through.
Yeah.
Is it like that?
Fish hands.
Is that a good Scooby-Doo ending, Stacey? Is that good? Can we just like Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, how are we doing on time?
Yeah,
9:28.
9:28. Any more questions? Anybody want to hop on? Does anybody have any? Hey guys, why don't, for the viewers at home, why don't you tell us, because we're the viewers at home if you guys talk, where you get outside of the box kind of motivation and inspiration.
Yeah, tell us about like one time that you did something that was totally outside your comfort zone and it either worked out or failed horribly.
Yeah, let's try to keep it a little bit on topic now, Daryl. Like not, we don't have to go full Ryan Reynolds on this.
Yeah. I'm just gonna like wait for the lag, wait for everyone to like panic, or just give us nothing, which is also super possible.
Yeah, if you don't actually want to talk to us, that's fine. Like we can just talk to each other. We kind of actually, we were saying like if nobody showed up for this, it would just be a regular night where we would just like talk about
Daryl says
photography.
Daryl says my eyes are up here, Curtis.
So dreamy.
Joe says nature inspires me every day.
Yes, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one turns into an absolute hedgehog if he doesn't get outside like relatively frequently. Which is ironic because I can hermit really hard, which I'm the extrovert and he's the introvert, and he's the one who has to get outside, and I can just like turn into this like bog witch.
Yeah, but there's nothing more introverted than putting yourself outside with no one around.
Fair. Stacey says being exposed to 2 different types of art or people that are doing cool shit inspires me on the daily. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, people will say like, oh, who's your favorite photographer? And I'm like, I'm not sure. There's a bunch that I like, but I follow a lot of artists like painters and sketch artists and comic book artists and stuff like that.
I get a lot. I mean, it doesn't really show in my work much at all, but I do get a lot of inspiration from comic books. It's just such a big part of my childhood.
Yeah.
And nature, obviously.
Nan Noftel says, when is the new Fun Shores workshop next year? A bazillion exclamation marks. Can't wait. We're working on it.
Big announcement coming soon.
Yeah, Vanessa says what Nan said. So
it's going to be, I have to fly to the north on the 23rd, and hopefully we're going to have something announced before I leave.
Yeah, which is Monday. So it'll be quick. We have some math and accounting to figure out first, and then some calendar scoping, and then get it all booked in. So yeah, hopefully by like Monday that stuff will be launched and live. So,
yeah, I want to get that done before I get on a plane.
Yeah, has to be.
Has to be.
Yeah,
you heard it here first. Conference and Chill exclusive. Curtis has to get it done before he gets on a plane and flies to the remote Canadian North.
Yeah, and if you guys are
breaking
interested,
news at 11.
If you guys are interested and you have, this is like, it's genuinely, this isn't meant to be a pitch because that wasn't the
No,
point
it
of
is. It is. It's a pitch.
But if you're interested in signing up onto our newsletter, that's the fastest way, because you can't trust social media to catch all the posts.
Or they can join our Facebook group.
They can join the Facebook group, but that doesn't mean you're going to see all the posts. So if you're on the newsletter, you'll for sure find out about it. But the Facebook group is also a good place to go, which is facebook.com/newfoundshores. I think if you search Newfound Shores photo workshops, it'll pop up.
Yeah.
Nan is pitching. You're coming to Grand Prairie, the Great White North.
I am going to touch down in Edmonton for a second, and then I'm going to Yellowknife, and then Kugluktuk, I think. So then Cambridge Bay. But yeah, maybe Grand Prairie.
Yeah, I mean, maybe in the spring or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not this fall, but
spring. Yeah.
Yeah,
spring maybe.
Possibly. That all depends on the Antarctic season. If that happens.
There's a problem. So getting back to like one of Boone's original questions about the struggle, this is a big one for like planning workshops and dealing in tourism and travel photography is the last year. And I know the last year is hard for all types of photography and everyone in general, but just speaking specifically to this type of photography, the biggest problem is planning things so far in advance, not knowing what the state of the world is going to be, and then having to like pull everything up again, and give everybody adequate notice. So it's like there's always this sort of tight walk of, I could keep everything open and just cross our fingers that everything is a go, but then if you don't give give people enough notice to make alternate plans, that's really kind of shitty too. So it's the kind of stuff that keeps you up at night.
Yeah, that's why there's like the early morning.
That and the street sweepers.
Yeah, the street, they
fucking
were
loud, man.
But yeah, it's the stuff that'll like, you're sleeping soundly and then you have this weird dream and you wake up and you have a panic attack and you're like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna get up now. Because that is full-time arts job sometimes, especially after the last 18 months.
But we're not gonna talk about that anymore.
No, we're done.
We didn't want this to be about COVID.
What else did we have on here?
I think we made all of our points.
That was pretty impressive.
We got through all the Arabic.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Really.
Any final questions? Does anybody have anything you'd like to share with us? Something you've been holding on to?
Tips for traveling right now. San Diego next week, first time traveling post-COVID.
Oh yeah.
You're probably gonna need a COVID test before you get on the plane.
He knows all that.
I'm assuming you know that.
Tips for traveling. I mean,
bring like change of masks when you're on, because you're going to be wearing the same mask for quite a while. I usually bring like 3 and then I change them relatively frequently so that it's just not gross.
Yeah. To be honest, the travel that I've done this year, and it hasn't obviously been a lot, but I've done some. Travel's actually been easier. Just if you are prepared for it and patient, which is like most of life, travel's been pretty good. People have been like, pretty understanding. I feel like they're not in such a crazy mood. There just seems to be a little bit more patience. It's really nice that there's like forced space in a lot of the
space part
travel
really
world
nice.
right now.
Yeah, that part's awesome.
It's a little more ordered. It's not as chaotic in airports, I find, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's different, but it's not.
Have fun. That's
that
probably
bad.
my only advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Little
and then the other comment.
hand
I mean, I'm not a
sanitizer.
public health employee, but just the common sense stuff.
Yeah. Watch your mitts.
Remember to tip your server.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Traveling.
Take lots of pictures.
Is what it is. Yeah. But yeah.
You guys are hilarious. I swear I've been smiling this big the entire time. And
Perfect.
I'm Daryl, you kind of let us down.
Chicken shit.
Yeah, I mean, like you talk kind of a big game here in the comments, but too shy to come live.
Next time.
I mean, he's got that cute dog. You could just put the dog on, we'd be happy.
Yeah. I'm seeing if I can like provoke him into coming, but I think he's like, no.
Show us the dog.
Yeah, okay, we actually want to see this dog.
I think he has to stand by his decision at this point now, though.
Yeah. Our cat has finally decided to chill out. I wonder if I can do this.
Oh, don't do that.
I'm gonna do it. Oh God, look at all the stuff because he's getting ready to go north. But there's also a sleeping cat butt.
Oh, the butt that was in the tea.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that ass went right into my teacup. That was great.
Ass over teacup.
Yeah. She just like sat on it, and I was like, dude.
It was perfect. You guys, thank you so much for giving this hour to our Pepperverse and our crew here. And thank you for everyone that joined the conversation. I'm Daryl, Elizabeth. So I think that's Nan.
Yeah, that's Nan. Yeah.
I checked out your work. It's so cool. I'm actually really impressed with the variety of what you're shooting. So that's like, there's like a kick-ass car shot thrown in there.
Yeah, she does rally. She's she's like the photog for like this local rock island rally thing. She's the bomb.
Yeah.
It was like so impressed. Like Joe, Vanessa, everyone that joined in, Sergina, absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys so much. And next week, we're going to be talking to João Guedes. He is originally from Brazil, but he's living in Canada now. He is an insane fine art nude photographer. He's a true artist. And actually, he gets super inspired by like different types of music and other types of artisans as well. So he talks a lot about references, but he's going to be teaching us all about editing and how to edit better, especially with his genre. So super keen for that.
Oh,
this is a funny, weird story. I think that he and I were years ago part of the same Instagram account. I think there was an account that it was like an account, let's say like Newfound Shores starts an account. And then there are 5 or 6 people that sort of curate the account. And I think he and I were part of the same one at one point. And then it didn't live, it didn't exist, it died or whatever, but.
Was it like, was it in relation to a workshop?
No, it was just like any other of hundreds of them on Instagram, like Canadian, artists explore or whatever, like that kind of stuff.
Because actually, Curtis, do you curate Canadian creatives?
Creatives? No.
I thought maybe you created that. Curated.
No, but everyone in there is like a pretty good friend of mine.
Maybe I just saw your work on there before, but now
I pay them pretty well, so but it shows up from time to time. But
some primo spots.
Yeah,
you pay them in your iceberg beer.
Dropping those toonies, taking out kids' eyes.
Yeah, you guys should totally come, and it'd be so curious. Like even like we didn't even really like when you talked about like I love your ingredients, like using that terminology for ingredients in your work. But how people edit is such a personal thing. I think
It's like dating. It's like dating. Setting up your camera and how you edit is like dating. Like there's like how you have all your stuff set up. It's like very specific and very like whatever. And then like
buttons to push.
But then you go to someone else's system and you watch how they
custom
do it.
mode.
And then you hit all the wrong buttons and it all blows up and you don't know why and you don't understand. It's like weird. Like, so if I'm editing on my system.
Layering, masks. Wait.
I mean, those both count.
I'd be like, jokes like I got this.
But no, so like if I'm editing on my computer or my system and then I go to someone else's, it's literally like going on a first date because I'm just like, oh my God, like what do I, and then like I get the same like, well, similar anxiety of like, you know, I don't want to say or do the wrong thing to like make it blow up.
To destroy this. Like I used to be, when I was shooting full time, pre-Pepper, and I still shoot on the side because I still love it because I can't stop. And like, it's where like the creative passion still is. Pepper is like for my brain, the brain side of the business side, which I love. But I had this studio, it was a boudoir studio with a fellow photographer, and people are like, why are you having a studio with someone that like we look kind of even similar, we sound similar, we shoot similarly, like we offer the same services. But it was the best. Like we learned so much off each other, and just like hanging out, watching someone else edit, you're going to pick up stuff that you never even knew you could do, or little like techniques, or like one little tool. You're like, what? I've been staring at Photoshop for how many years? I didn't even know that tool existed and what that even did. And yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like, so I like to say that it's like the circle. So like this is the circle and the stuff on the inside in here, this is the stuff that you know. And then this part with my hands is the stuff that you know you don't know. And then all this shit out here is the stuff that you don't even know that you don't know. So the more that you learn, the more you know you don't know, and thus imposter syndrome happens.
I know, but it's so empowering too.
Huh?
I think it's empowering. Like once you like fully realize how much you don't know, that it's exciting to think of what you still have to learn.
Exactly. Well, there's two ways that it can go from it, right? Is that, you know, you like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? We're like, I know everything and I'm the fucking shit. And then it's like, oh, good God. And then eventually you start to like get through it on the other side. So some people can get the imposter side where they like get really intimidated and frustrated. And then sometimes there's the other side of it, which is like they get really excited, you know, so it's like the excited and then like the stressed out, and you can be like one of two, and you can also frantically flip between the two back and forth. That's also acceptable.
I was going to ask like, where you guys are at with that, because I feel like as a professional, you can't help yourself but flip around like and fluctuate in that spectrum, because there are probably times in your career where you feel like, fuck yeah, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I know I'm great at this. And like, you don't have to be like arrogant about it. You're like, but I know I'm good. Like, I know my stuff. Yeah. But then like, I'm sure like COVID happens or whatever, or like you come up against lighting that doesn't work out and you're shooting something new, and then you're like right back down again. Like, like the longer you're in this industry, or like the more pro you are, I'm sure like the more that fluctuates.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and I feel like you said the same thing. It's not, I think it just comes down to realizing that you've been in that situation 100 times already.
Yeah.
And just logically thinking, like getting the brain to stop for a second and be like, okay, you know, we've been here before. There is a solution. And for me too, the other big one is that I say all the time to myself, if I'm really getting like spun out about something, is that this is just photography.
Yeah.
Like it's not that important, you know, like it is in a sense like what we do, and we do it to make money, but
nobody's going to die. We're not running an ambulance service.
Or exactly. if it's like my career is over, like that's like, because that's kind of where your brain goes, right? In those like milliseconds leading up to something spinning out of control, is like, oh, this is the last job I'll ever get. My career's over. My reputation's ruined. Like everyone's going to see that I'm a fraud. This is a huge mistake. Why did I say yes to Stacy? Holy shit. I need another beer. You know, now she knows that I've been drinking too many beer. Like
I'm super into this.
But yeah, like at a certain point, I can like stop that spinning gerbil and say like, it doesn't matter. Like you're still gonna go to bed tonight and wake up and grab a coffee somewhere and then just figure it out. So
I didn't even think of that. Like once you reach a certain Chris Andres, like he does excellent work as well.
Yeah, Chris is great.
He's okay. I mean, as far as guys who spell their name with a K, Chris is in the top 10.
Dude, I feel like Chris, be our first brave person during this chat. Come on live. I would love for you to join this part of the conversation. I absolutely love your work. The link, if you just scroll up a little bit, there's a little Zoom link. So just click on that if you're feeling it. No pressure, a little pressure, just a bit, but it's up to you. Come and hang out with us. Can I actually have so many more questions? But you guys got time, right? All night.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Okay, so this is something I didn't think about. Like when you reach a certain stage in your career, like you both have creative live classes, which is insane and amazing. Like that's a huge goal for a lot of photographers. Like you're good enough and you're so well renowned that Creative Live wants you to create a course. Insane. And you have your own workshop and you guys have traveled the world and done so many cool things. Now, being that high in your career, is it scary to take chances? Or like when you do work that you feel like isn't your best, like how hard is that? Is it like higher pressure once you reach that stage in your career? I've never gotten that high because I make mistakes. I'm like, no one will know. It doesn't really matter. But
I mean, so I've often subscribed to the fact that so like that horse project, for example, I guess we can let Chris in. We'll finish this up. So like, for example, so that horse project, like I spent 4 years and I'm still paying off how much money that cost me, like to do that shoot. And like, it's a 10-year project. And so I've got, 5 years into it now, 6 years into it. Oh my God, I only have 4 years left. Fuck. But, so like that I had done so much training and so much planning and so much prep work that we had done into the shoot. And then literally the day of the shoot, just before we started taking photos, this gnarly fucking snowstorm just like blows in and just like absolutely sidelines everything that we had planned. And we kind of knew that this was coming, but I had spent months, years planning these images, like how everything was going to look. And I had it like in my head of what it was going to look like. And then to get to the shoot that day and be delivered, admittedly, the most incredible atmosphere that like I could never have planned for. And it made like amazing images as a result, but I couldn't see that the day of the shoot because like it wasn't what I had planned at all. Like I literally that morning, as soon as that snow started falling, we were just like, fuck. And we just threw out every single shot. Hold on. Let me finish.
Not we.
I threw it out. I was so
She-Hulk.
fucking mad. I was like, yeah, I She-Hulked. And it was a personal shoot, so it's okay if I turn into a monster in the forest when nobody can see me. But anyways, like, so it took me like 6 months to like edit, 4 months to edit through those images. And I would just like, I would sit down and edit and I would just cry. And I would cry and cry and cry and cry and working on these images because I was just like, this isn't at all what I wanted. And I was completely unable to see how fucking awesome they were because of the snow and everything that we couldn't have planned for. So like, at the end of the day, people who see that project, it wasn't anything what it was supposed to be, like at all. But people don't know what those shots were supposed to be. They only see the final result. Right. So even if you're out there and you're doing this like massive fucking job and you have these huge teams and whatever, and it doesn't go to your plan whatsoever, the end result, nobody out there who's going to be seeing this shit has any idea what it was supposed to be. They only see what it is. And I think there's like a really good lesson in there for that, for like most of us. To be like, okay, yeah, sure, the behind the scenes was a fucking disaster and like everything that we wanted to shoot and like we didn't get this and we didn't get this and this went sideways and blah and we only got this. Everyone else is saying, oh my God, you got this, right? And so that's when you like check your ego and you're like, okay, calm yourself, like.
Yeah, I think the only difference with like doing it for so long and achieving some degree of success or whatever is like you still have that weird anxiety from time to time about like what are people going to think if this goes south or pear-shaped. But the biggest difference for me is that the quicker that you learn to just own it, whatever it happens to be, whether it's a win or a fail, I feel like it's just easier to move past it. So the more time you spend trying to pretend it didn't happen or wish it didn't go that way or how am I going to fix it before sharing it, like that seems to be where all the anxiety comes from for me. And the quicker I get to that point of just owning up, it is what it is, like, put it out into the world or not, whatever you decide to do, the easier it gets. And that level of sort of, I don't know if it's like confidence or just.
We're just like, oh God, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of like, there's a certain amount of like, there's only so much stress that the body takes before you just say, fuck it, I don't care. Like, so that's also a tactic that I use all the time. Just kind of like keep like, well, I have this nickname of being like the anxious hammer, because I will keep like smashing at something until I just basically get to the point where I'm like, I don't care.
So I want to bring in Chris and Daryl. Daryl, you are a
look at these hats.
Yeah, we got
hats, man.
I fixed it. I outsmarted the computer. Come here. I'll come say hi.
Yeah, come let's see the puppy.
Yeah, let's see the dog.
Yeah.
Look at the puppy.
Oh, Fluffy.
Look how
Full
big
camera
he
shot.
is.
Hey, Bow Wow.
Oh man,
Hey.
so cute.
I would love to get Daryl and Chris, I'd love to get your point of view on something. So Curtis said something to me the other day, and he said when you go out and you do a shoot, I forget exactly how you word, but like don't expect, like go without any expectation, like don't expect to nail it. And if you're going out there, how did you word that?
I said, if you're going out there and your happiness depends on getting a shot, then you probably shouldn't leave your house.
So what do you guys think of that statement?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Chris.
Absolutely agree with that statement. If you're going out just for the shot, it's not really worth it. If it's going out for the adventure and the shot is a byproduct of it, 100%.
I agree the same way.
The same way. So I like totally see it, but then like there's a side of me like, fuck, like I gotta get something for my client, or like I gotta get this shot because money and this is a job and whatever. So how do you balance that? Like what would you tell someone? Like what would you tell someone like me that's going I would love to hear Chris and Daryl, and then Curtis, I want to circle back to you at the end.
No, I don't need
Go ahead, Daryl.
I always heard a statement years ago, and it was confidence isn't about knowing everything. It's going into a situation and doing the best you can. And that's all you can do. Every time you set an expectation, there's always a risk of it falling. So if you don't have that, you can start at zero and only work up.
What do you think, Chris?
I love that one. That's a great one. Like for me, it's going out for the shoot. If I get something great, if not, it's try again the next day. It's all about going out, just the adventure mode right now. But if there's an actual client tied to it, it's just setting the expectation that this may happen or may not. And quite often there's something that's salvageable out of every opportunity, but some are better, days are better than others.
Yeah,
That's
because
why I like being a composite artist, because I can fake that shit anytime. I don't have to go out and be like, oh my god, we didn't get the perfect weather. Like, I'll just make perfect weather.
Renee,
And I think that's
background?
why I'd rather shoot in a hospital in a third world country than touch a wedding. Weddings.
Yeah,
Oh.
right?
Weddings.
Nope.
Right? Holy crap. I would rather photograph like a lot of really tragic stuff before weddings.
I shot weddings, and I think weddings are like the boot camp of the industry, because you gotta make like 10, okay, that's a big number. Let's say like 5 sweaty dudes in a tiny dark hotel room look cool, right? And like, you never know what's going to happen. Your bride might get totally hosed, which definitely has happened. And those brides are actually hilarious and awesome. I love them. So please come.
To be fair, the drunk brides are the best brides.
Sign me up. Like the ones that want to party, I'm your girl. But they are chaos. They can be so chaotic. And I actually love that. Like, I love the weddings. You never know what's going to happen. It's totally unexpected. You got to like work with whatever is happening, the weather or whatever. Like, I get so energized off of that versus ones that are just so well paced and so calm and like put together. And I'm just like, I can't.
The chaos of those, it just makes me want to kill myself. It's like, if that was my job, I would just not live. If that was my only option for work, I would just not. I would be like, I guess I'm gonna try another life, because this is not happening. Which is really dark, but it's actually quite honest.
That's so fair, but like then like knowing whatever brings you energy, or that's what I love about Conference and Chill and everyone that's a part of it. And I love like meeting other photographers that are shooting other different things and being exposed to those worlds, because I think in a lot of people enter the photography industry as wedding photographers. So it's such like an easy entry. You know, you're shooting people, weddings happen, you get asked, and then we forget all the other genres out there and how awesome and cool they are and the opportunities. And then we all start shooting the same way, getting educated by the same people.
Yeah.
So Curtis and Renee, how do you
Hmm?
manage your clients' expectations so you don't have that expectation set?
So I basically, this might be kind of weird, but I speak to them very directly. Like I have some autistic friends and I speak to them in the same way. There's no like room for interpretation of the words that are coming out of my mouth, right down to like, okay, you know, so let's say it's a photograph of a subject. So the subject is the client, right? So then I say, alrighty. So they get into the studio. I do this face to face. I don't do this on the email because it comes off weird otherwise. But I say like, okay, so with posing and with retouching, what side of your face do you like more? Is there any part of your body that I need to be aware of that you're insecure of? Is there a part of your body that you love?
This is also basically verbatim our first date.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I want to hear the response though. I want to hear Curtis's answers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's very clear. So like, you know, younger me made a lot of those mistakes and I was making interpretations for people and I was guessing for them and it wasn't fair to them. And so so that expectation is like set up even before the camera starts. Like, you know, like this year I did some shoots for some clients and they put on a little bit of weight that they don't normally carry. And they're like, oh, I'm feeling like, you know, chin or like stomach or arms or whatever. And they're like, I don't usually have that, you know, like, and I'm like, okay, do you want me to take care of it with styling, with posing or Photoshop or all three? Right. And that helps like set that expectation because that's the biggest one. Because like people don't care if I'm compositing them into these like crazy backgrounds. They don't really care about that. They care about how their body looks in that background. Whereas if I'm working with on a commercial job and everything, I'm working with an art director, same thing. I speak to them like they're autistic and I expect like that autistic response of like, you know, oh, we'll just figure it out. Like, no, we are storyboarding this. What are your colors? What is the story? What are we trying to figure out and get like all the details hammered out so that it's done. Where it all goes to shit is when I'm doing personal work. Is that I'm just like, let's show up and make some stuff.
That's
And
so
then like, you know, it's just like a mess.
but it's not really. You probably like, do you think, is it actually, or do you feel like you're just putting so much extra pressure on yourself?
Oh no, it is like, have you ever like, you know, blown bubbles into soda pop with a straw? It's like that. It's just like everywhere.
My nose is thinking about it.
Yeah, that's kind of how that goes.
Was
You've
your
been on
work
those
with
sets, you've seen it.
was your work with Michelle Salt kind of a personal project or did she reach out to you?
So I saw her reach out for because she was like, it was her 10-year anniversary from her accident, and I was like, hey, I remember you because that was just a few months after my accident, and I almost lost my leg, and then she actually did lose hers.
Mhm.
And her accident admittedly was like way more fucked up than mine was, obviously. And but it was like that was actually kind of therapeutic for me because I had almost lost my leg and I'd always wondered, I always had this like, because my leg causes me so much pain and it limits me on so many things that I can do, I often, and because I almost lost it, I wonder what my life would have been like without it. And so being able to have like kind of an honest conversation with her over a couple of different shoots was actually kind of therapeutic because I get to see like, 2 years after this girl had her accident, she was competing in the Olympics. I'm like, man, 2 years after my accident, I was still barely walking and like just sort of learning how to run, but not really. So like my recovery was so much longer in that regard, right? Where, and then she can do all these extreme sports where I can't do most of those anymore. But my everyday is much easier than what hers is, right? So her peaks, she gets to do all these where I stop right about down here, but my everydays, there's no comparison where those challenges are. But yeah, so she basically, when I saw her write that, and I was like, hey, you were that person. I think you had that accident thing. And then, yeah, it all kind of like came together that way.
No, it was awesome work. I'm doing a documentary on the psychosocial implications of amputation right now. So when I
Amazing.
saw that, I just loved it. It was like, and I was wondering about, I knew about your accident, so I was wondering if it was kind of cathartic.
A little, it actually was, yeah, which surprised me because I wasn't sure. I mean, I've also never met anybody who had gone through something similar who was around the same age. You know, our accidents, like I think we are the same age or very close. Our accidents are right around the same time. It's even, I think it's the same side of the body even. And so
Yeah, she's right leg.
yeah, and so and mine I would have lost at the knee, and it was, yeah, I don't know if it was for her or not, but it was for me just like to meet someone else, because I mean she competes with other Paralympians, right? So she has like that circle of people who she can relate to, where I've never met anybody like that I could before, who like, you know, immediately after something like that happening, you were like fucking driven to like do something else completely different, whatever that is. And for me, that was like learning to bring the world to me. Whereas with her, it was competing in professional sports, or well, amateur professional. I don't know. She competes in the World Cup. She's done like 14 times in the World Cup, which is insane.
Yeah, she's professional. She competes for Team
Yeah.
Canada on the Paralympic teams.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. Like that's so cool. And like that is something that is like, I'll never be able to do that. But you know, just like that focus of, you know, all of a sudden all these doors are closed and there's this one open for you. Are you going to give it everything? You know, and her and I both did that in completely opposite directions. Was, I don't know, it was very cathartic.
That's extremely powerful and inspiring. You know, like taking control of your life and taking the reins and how you want to live it and what's important to you and being fulfilled. It's not a small thing to do. It's easier to just like curl up and watch Netflix all day.
But it's not easier at the end of the day, right? Like you think it is, but in the long term, it's not, right? Like that's like this big like illusion that we have. And that I learned from that experience was that, you know, so many people were just like, oh my God, I would have just like laid around and done nothing. And it's like, but actually that is harder to do, to live a lesser life. It like you die in here a very slow death.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it's easier to be at home and Netflix all the time, but it's actually harder. But you don't see that right away. You'll see that in a few years, right? And then that's where all the regret and the what ifs build in and the FOMO and everything else. So it's funny that way. Because basically my mom always told me, and this is, I mean, I grew up right like on a farm and riding horses and stuff. And she was like, well, there's two ways you can ride a horse and there's two ways you can live life. And I was like, what's that? She's like, you can either ride it or be dragged by it. And I was like,
good one.
Yeah, you're right. And then I get bucked off and dragged and foot caught in the strip and like dragged.
But you get back on.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the other thing that I don't know if my parents are really excited about this lesson, because when we ride horses, if you get bucked off, you have to get back on that horse. You have to, because otherwise the horse knows. Horses are smart, but they also don't want you there. So they are constantly going to be checking that dominance. And so if you fall off, you have to get back on the horse. Even if your ribs are broken, you have to get back on the horse.
Wow.
And walk it, unless it's a bronze
Even
situation.
if the horse's ribs are broken, you get back on that
You're the
horse.
worst.
Get back on the horse.
No,
Yeah.
Back on the horse. What are
you're
you?
the worst.
I thought that was the lesson.
Yeah.
But anyway, so with that, so what happened was I, you know, when that accident happened, I knew that if I didn't get right back on that motorbike next spring, I was going to be too scared to get back on. And I was never going to ride again. So I literally spent the winter, like, you know, sitting on the garage floor, pulling apart my motorbike. And then I rebuilt the whole thing. And then I was riding again next spring, even though I could barely hold the bike up, but I was like, I have to, as soon as I can, I have to get back on this bike. Otherwise this is never happening again. And that fear is going to fucking rule me forever. And I just couldn't accept that. And so unfortunately for my parents, I did start riding again the next spring. And that came from horse riding, where I was just like, this
You're like,
terrifies
you taught me this
me. I have to
lesson.
do this.
You're like, this is your fault. This is happening right now.
Yeah, I literally told that to my parents. I was like, sorry, but you're right.
I also want to see Curtis in Mongolia horseback riding with those old vetted guys.
We'll do that next year there, Curtis.
Yeah.
Get back
I
on.
mean,
Get back on.
I am trying to learn how to ride horses, because that's like one of my, I've got a couple big life goals. but one of them is to do like a pretty legit horse riding expedition.
We actually have a friend who does that. She's a historian,
Yeah,
and she's actually one of the women in that horse project that I photographed.
she rides through Mongolia and
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan and
She
stuff.
does these like gnarly, like several week or month trips on horseback to like the middle of fucking nowhere with a guide on like these little spindly, like barely broke horses. And she's a phenomenal rider. And like we met them, and Curtis was like, "Can I come along one time?" And I was like, "You're gonna learn how to ride real fast."
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, that's usually the best way to do it.
Yeah, as long as you don't break anything.
But if you break it, you get back on. You
To
break it, you get it back on.
be fair,
You also still have to be able to. You have to be able to ride the horse out to
Break it.
that broken.
Oh, everything is.
They're not
relative.
broken. They're not broke at all.
Mhm.
But yeah, actually, so those jousting horses that I photographed were
Yeah.
actually doing riding lessons, because I grew up riding Western, and now I'm learning to ride jousting horses, which is not the same, like at all. Nothing is the same. It is completely different. I make terrible choices on that horse every single time, because my brain is like, oh, when they start like galloping, you let them have your head, because ranching, right? You don't want to be pulling on their head all day long. It's exhausting. And then these jousting horses, because they're trained for jousting, is when you let go of the reins, is when your rider's been hit, and so the horses stop. And so I'm like,
I
okay,
never
sweet,
thought of
you're
that.
going full speed. And then I instinctually, every single time, even though my brain is like, hold on, like keep pressure on the reins, I don't. And I give the horse their head, and they hit the brakes, and I'm like, whoa. And the
It's like
horse
me
is
driving in
"What do you
Europe on
want
the
from
other side of
me?"
the road.
Sorry?
It's like me driving in Europe on the other side of the road.
Same. Yep, same thing. You're just like, logically, yes. And then your brain's like, no.
I feel like I need some more adventure in my life. I feel like as an adult, like as a kid, I would look at adults that were like couldn't do cartwheels anymore, or like were stiff getting up, and I was like, what happened to them? Like, how come they're not as agile or adventurous, or they're scared of everything? And I see myself as an adult, like heading into my late 30s now. I can see myself as an adult that happening. I'm like, what? How is this happening to me? How did I get to this place? Because I hear that and I'm sweating just thinking about it. I'm like, all I want is my Mary Poppins bicycle to go around the park on Sundays.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great little bike. But,
We need photographs of this bike in the Pepperverse,
Yeah.
please.
yeah, oh, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
My partner got it for me. It's this vintage, like mint green old lady
Nice.
bike. It's fantastic.
We can do like a big space whale riding it. Like,
There you go. Want to see it?
Yes, I think this should happen. Or like, I would love, like I'm like picturing like, so guys, so that you can see, you know what we're talking about. I'm super pregnant. Maybe also why I'm sweaty right now, but I have the baby room, and I thought I was going to do like all this decor and whatever to it. I've done like the 0% nothing. And I really want this whale in space. And I kind of want to either like have a person like riding it, this whale in space, or like an astronaut touching the whale in space, or something cool like that. So I'm on the lookout for art. And Renee sent me some
Nice.
already. So if you see anything, share it in the
Space
group.
whales.
You'll be like,
Yeah.
why are there whales in space in the group right now? They won't have to know, but I'll know. So you can share that.
Visualizing Curtis riding a whale.
with
In
his
space.
squirrel in the
That's
basket.
what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Renee, personal project. Pepperverse
Yeah.
wall.
well, Daryl already wants me to do him like Sparta kicking a squirrel off a tree. So you're gonna have to do that.
Yes.
I feel it suits you.
I didn't
Ripped shirt, foot out.
Yeah.
I didn't yeah, like the classic lumberjack kicking a squirrel shot. That's so Canadian. Yeah, we didn't do a Father's Day one this year, so we're we're due
shit.
one, because we have this thing where we do Renee takes a photo of me for my father every year for Father's Day, because he's quite embarrassed by me. Just in general in life. So I like adding to that shame.
Hold on, let me see if I can find
It's
it.
really what I give to the family, basically, is shame.
Yeah.
But I do it well.
I wonder if it's in here.
But that would be a good one.
I don't know.
Riding a whale or
In
kicking
space.
the teeth out of a squirrel.
Squirrel one. Would be
That all needs to
fun.
happen. You guys can make that happen, right?
Yeah,
The squirrel one for sure. Whale. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here
yeah. Everybody. So this is a
we
couple. Maybe this was last year's or 2 years ago.
go. He says cautiously, like, okay, here we go. You were excited.
No, I'm proud of this work. I
So-
mean, it's very.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes. Oh.
So okay, so there's a lot. There was a lot of perusing Amazon to get the right costuming. A lot went into this.
Yeah, we have the seashell bra just to be safe, but I found this like little kid's tank top.
The seashell bra really cut into my pecs.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
This is so that's Dentine. We still have her. Actually, the big snow blizzard we had in Newfoundland 2 years ago, Dentine made another appearance.
Yeah.
Why do you look like a young Nicolas Cage?
I definitely a little bit.
Who wouldn't want? I mean, that's because I'm that guy. Like, who didn't want to be in Con Air?
Yeah. Because the reason why she's
Love it.
called Dentine is because he's got the trident, so it's Dentine and Trident, just to like spell it out for anyone who missed
No,
it.
you
Oh,
Amazing.
See? That helps when you
Yeah.
spell it out.
No, it would have come to him late at night. He just would have been like eating popcorn, sitting in his backyard. And just
It's
would've
hard to
been like,
get to that point, and like the image is so forefront in your mind, you may never get to that point.
See? I'm gonna see if I can find I don't know if I put the other one on my website though.
It's not important.
Hold on, it's super important.
So is that the kind of stuff we're gonna create next fall when we come out there?
Yeah, well, potentially. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm
so
modeling.
is it weird that Renee started in modeling and now you're switching over into modeling?
Not at all. I mean, it's weird that I haven't been modeling longer. That's what's weird. Yeah, no, it's super weird. And you know why? You know why it is? It's because I like being a clown, obviously. So it works out well. I've also had like ideas like this in my head forever, but not able to figure out how to do it. So Renee obviously is like a master of putting that all together. I just need to like make bad ideas come out of my mouth and then they happen. But then the other thing is that I have tons of photos of her, but I can't make her look the way she makes me look. So I'm always a bit like terrified of, the edit, right? Like
Hmm.
A happy
I found-
life is a happy
found it.
photo editor.
Found it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go. Share.
And then-
oh,
Chris, Elizabeth, so Nan wants to know if you're coming out east, actually.
I am. Lizzie and I are planning on coming out there next end of July next year, out to Newfoundland, hopefully.
That's so
Okay.
cool.
Did that screen share properly?
Nope.
I
Oh,
mean,
there we go.
Mercy and
There's the epic Curtis in the snow.
this is Newfoundland last June.
I was like, this looks real. This doesn't look, I don't think this is.
Oh no, that's an environmental portrait.
Yeah, that was
That's
awesome.
me following camera on location. That's me shoveling the driveway. I'm
That
pretty sure I
made
was
my
standing
week.
on somebody's car.
Yeah, there was, so this is, we got 15 feet of snow in our driveway in 12 hours. And so we shot this just before it got too dark to shoot, but here's the video. It's literally in a hurricane. It's a winter hurricane.
Does this have audio?
I don't know. It's Instagram. I mean, there's mostly just me giggling like an asshole while I'm holding the phone with someone here and I'm shooting with this hand. So I'm trying to do them both.
I got stuck here. I got really scared because my little legs couldn't quite get me up the snowbank and I was getting cold.
Where were the
'Cause I
sled
don't know if
dogs
you
when you
noticed
needed?
it, but I'm not wearing a shirt.
And he's just like traumatized, like trying to get back in.
God, this is,
But
that's
yeah,
actually
that was a crazy snowstorm, and this was the next day.
crazy.
This is like up. This is the second floor.
It
of
took a
our
long
house.
time. I did good work, huh?
Yeah, that
All
was
shirtless with your unicorn?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that was a
insane.
lot. It was a lot. But
Okay, I feel like that is the perfect way to wrap this conversation.
Yeah.
It's a leave
Absolutely.
with those images in their mind. Like any takeaways is all you need. Those last few images, and you're good.
Yep.
you need someone with lots of bad ideas and someone else who's willing to help make it happen. You gotta have two sides of that coin.
That is a quotable. That is such a that is it. Chris and Daryl, thank you guys so much for coming to hang out. It's so awesome.
Thank
It's just
you.
so nice to like
Your
see
faces,
faces.
Yeah.
especially after all the shit talking online, Daryl.
I don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, weird.
I'm as innocent as Curtis.
Yeah, right. Yes, it's true.
That's
Don't
not
check
bad.
my Instagram.
And if when you guys are doing something cool, like Daryl, we'd love to see your project you were talking about earlier. And Chris,
Yeah.
like, oh, love it when you share your work. So when you guys are doing cool stuff, let us know about it. Like we'll share about it. We'll put it out into the world. I want to enjoy it. I want other people too. So
Sweet.
love
Well,
it.
thank you for everything you do as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Always inspired by so much content on Pepperverse. So have a great day, everyone. Nice seeing
Heck yeah.
everyone.
All right, crew.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. Hi again.
Live, this is awesome. I love
Oh,
it.
twice
Make
in
this
2
stop.
days. You guys are
I'll
awesome.
remember you forever.
Ever.
I will
Bye.
dream of you tonight, and songs will be written.
Always in my dreams, you two.
Yeah.
Take care. Have a great night. Bye.
See you then. Are we still? Oh no, we're gone. We're done.